Welcome to my video on solving trig equations, linear number 4. Linear number 4 will solve trig equations that has tan, cot, secant, cosecant. Recall, tan is sine theta over cos theta. Cot is reciprocal, is cos theta over sine theta. Secant is 1 over cos theta. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. SC. We got a C, so we need 1 over sine. So how I remember secant begins with S, reciprocal of cos C. SC, CS. A fraction with a denominator of 0 is undefined. An example, 4 divided by 0. You're dividing by 0. And let's check with a calculator just to see what's happening here. So let's look at, turn on the calculator, clear it. So 4 division 0, and we get division by 0 is an error. So we cannot divide by 0. So it's division by 0 is undefined. So, hence, tan and secant are undefined when, notice that tan got cos in the bottom, and secant has cos in the bottom. So, tan and secant are undefined when cos theta equals 0. And cos is the x. So, on this circle, we have 1, 0. We have 0, 1, we have negative 1, 0, and we have 0, negative 1. So cos is 0 when x is 0, and that occurs at the 90 and at the 270 when x is 0. So when we do, and we check with the calculator again, we do the tan of 90. So just clear that. And let's do the tan of 90 degrees and see if it's undefined. Because tan is sine over cosine, and the cosine of 90, let's just check that. Clear it. The cosine of, let's clear it out. Cosine of 90 is 0. So therefore, tan is undefined at 9270 because cos is equal to 0 and cos is in the bottom. Hence, cot and cosecant are undefined when sine theta equals 0. Cot is cos over sine. Cosecant is 1 over sine. So if sine is equal to 0, that makes cot and cosecant undefined. And this occurs when the y equals 0. So the y is equal to 0. Again, let's write down these ordered pairs here at 0, 90, 180, and 270. Extremely important to know these when the radius is 1. So where is y? Y is 0 at 0 degrees and at 180. So that means that if you do the sine of 0 or the sine of 180, so let's just check. Let's do the sine of 0 degrees. We get a 0. Let's do the sine of 180 degrees, and we get 0. So when sine is equal to 0, which occurs at 0 and 180, that means cot is undefined and cosecant is undefined because sine is equal to 0 at 0 and 180 on the unit circle. When solving trig equations with tan, cot, secant, and cosecant, the solutions have to be checked if cos theta and or sine theta is equal to 0. Denominators are equal to 0, then the fraction is undefined. So we got to be careful when we use these sine and, cot tan, secant, cosecant in an equation, because we have division by 0 and it's undefined. So let's do an example here. Solve for theta, and we're going to do A, 0 to 360. Then we're going to do all the values in degrees. Then we're going to do the answer in terms of a radian for each one. So 4 cos tan theta plus 2 sine equals 3. So tan is sine over cosine plus 2 sine equals 3. So because we're multiplying fractions, we can cancel the causes. So we get 4 sine theta plus 2 sine equals 3. 4 sine and 2 sine adding like terms, 6 sine theta equals 3. And divide by 6, it cancels out. So sine theta equals a half. And we have to check, add sugar to coffee. Notice that sine is positive, and sine is positive in 1 and 2. So let's check 1, and we'll check with 2. Let's draw a circle for each one. In quadrant 1, there it is, the terminal arm perpendicular to the x-axis. We draw another circle, and we draw the terminal arm in quadrant 2 with a perpendicular to the x-axis. Sine is the y. So in this triangle, the y has to be a half. In this triangle, the y has to be a half. That means the x is root 3 over 2. The hypotenuse is 1. Remember, we're on a unit circle whose radius is 1. And in this second quadrant, the x is root 3 over 2, but it's negative. So opposite a half is a 30-degree angle. Opposite this half is 30-degree angle. So the reference angle is 30 degrees. Hence, in quadrant 1, the quadrant 1, theta is the reference angle, which is 30 degrees. And in quadrant 2, theta is 180 degrees minus the reference angle, which is 180 degrees minus 30, so we have a 150. So if you use your calculator and go sine 30 as a check, you get 0.5. If you go to sine of 150, you get 0.5. So that's A. That's the answers in degrees. Now we're going to find all the values. So all the values, we take 30 and we add on 360 n, where n belongs to the integers. And we take the 150 and we add on 360 degrees times n, where n belongs to the integers. And we did this in the earlier videos, but I'm reviewing it again now. And we want as a radiant, so 30 degrees times pi over 180. 30 goes into 30 once, 30 into 180 goes 6, so that becomes pi over 6 as a radiant. And 150 degrees multiplied by pi over 180 to convert to a radiant, cancels out the zeros because you're dividing by 10. 3 into 15 goes 5. 3 into 18 goes 6, so that's a 5 pi over 6. So in degrees, we got 30 and 150, and there's each of them with 360 added on, because 360 is 360n, because the period of sine is 360. So if you put n as 1, you'll get 390. If n is 2, you get 720 plus 30, you get 750, and so on. And here's the radians. And notice that the reference angle is pi over 6. 180 divided by 6 is 30. So that means each of these angles that I have here should have a pi over 6 in it. So pi over 6 is 30, 5 30s is 150. pi over 6 is a 30. Okay, again, if you wish, you can now pause your video and work this one out. And we also have one idea that I didn't mention, and I should, on this question. We have tan. When we have tan is sine over cos. So we have to be careful that cos theta is not equal to 0. And that happens, cos is 0 at theta. Cos is 0 at your 90 and your 270. So if these angles here came out to be 90 or 270, you wouldn't be able to use them. Because remember, the tan of 90 is undefined. The tan of 270 is undefined because cos is 0 in your denominator. So you have to check for these extraneous roots when you solve equations that have fractions. And tan, cot, secant, and cosecant are fractional with cos and sine in the denominator. And this is the same that happens here. Notice we have cosecant right here. Cosecant is 1 over sine. So that means that sine theta cannot equal 0. And sine is 0 at 0 degrees and at 180 degrees. So we come up with 0 and 180. When we solve this equation, we can't use them because they're what we call extraneous roots. They make the denominator 0 and make the equation not true. Can't do it. So be careful. Again, when the fraction, so cosecant is 1 over sine squared, plus 3 cos theta plus 2. 3 cot is cos over sine times sine. Whoop, I didn't give myself enough room here. Plus 6. So when we're multiplying, we cancel, so sine cancels out to give us sine theta. 3 times cos is 3 cos theta. 3 times 2 is 6. And the signs cancel here because you're multiplying with fractions. So there's 3 cos theta plus 6. Notice the 6 is on both sides, so we can cancel them. 3 cos theta is on both sides, and we cancel them. So that means that sine theta is equal to 0. And as we found, we cannot have sine theta equal 0. Because if sine theta is equal to 0, that means theta is going to equal 0 degrees or 180 degrees. Let's check the circle just to make sure. Sine is 0. Again, this is sine is 0. This is 1, 0. This is 0, 1. This is negative 1, 0. This is 0, negative 1. So sine is the y. So the y is 0 at y is 0 right there. So that's 0 degrees. The sine is y is 0 there. So 180. So we can't use those. So we say no solutions to this equation. No solutions because you can't use 0 or 80 because it makes cosecant or cot undefined. So be careful when you have fractions. You can't have your denominators 0. And we have another one to do. Number 2, we have secant and we have a cos plus 1. So first thing we do is change your secant to 1 over cos, it's reciprocal, plus 1 over cos theta plus 1 is this denominator equals 0. So notice we have cos is one denominator, so cos cannot equal 0. And also cos theta plus 1, which is this denominator, cannot equal 0. So that means cos theta cannot equal -1. So we got to keep that. And then we check that out on the circle again. Let's look at the circle. This is 1, 0, 0, 1, -1, 0, 0, -1. Cos is the x, so x is 0. X is 0 at your 90 and 270. X cannot be 0, so 90 and 270, you can't have it. And cos is the x is a -1. X is -1 at 180. So your theta cannot be equal to 90, 270, or 180. So let's solve the equation and see what happens. So what happens, we have fractions. So we have an LCD. So the LCD is cos theta times cos theta plus 1. So what we'll do, we'll take cos theta times cos theta plus 1 and multiply it by the first fraction, 1 over cos theta. And we'll take that denominator again, the LCD, and we'll multiply by the second part, which is 1 over cos theta plus 1. And we'll also take that denominator and we'll multiply it by 0. So now, when we have fractions multiplying each part of the equation by the LCD, each denominator should cancel out. So cos theta cancels out. So cos theta plus 1 times 1 is cos theta plus 1. And cos theta plus 1 cancels out, and we get cos theta times 1, which is cos theta, equals, and 0 times any number is 0. So we continue to solve. 2 cos theta plus 1 equals 0. 2 cos theta equals -1. Divide by 2. So cos theta is equal to -1/2. So continue to solve. Where are we? Add sugar to coffee. Cos is negative. Cos is positive in 1 and 4. So we're in 2 and 3. So we'll draw plenty of space this time. We'll draw bigger circles. And so we're in quadrant 2. So terminal arm, perpendicular to the x-axis. Quadrant 3, terminal arm, perpendicular to the x-axis. Cos is the x, and the x is a -1/2 in each triangle. The hypotenuse is 1 in each triangle, and the other side is root 3 over 2 positive, and right here is root 3 over 2 negative, and opposite root 3 over 2 in this triangle, this is a 60, and this angle is a 60 reference. So the reference angle is 60 in both of these. So in the second quadrant, theta is 180 minus the reference angle. So it's 180 minus the 60, which is 120 degrees. And in the third quadrant, theta is 180 plus the reference angle. So it's 180 plus 60, which is 240. And again, note, there's theta in the second one. So all the way over is 180, come back 60. And right here is all the way around. There's 90. Here comes 180. So it's 180 plus the reference. And that's A, that's in degrees. And we want all of them. Well, B, we'll take the 120 and add on the period of 360 times n, where n belongs to the integers. And in this one, we'll take the 240 and we'll add on 360 n, where n belongs to the integer. So now we have them all. If you put n is 1n, or n is 2, or n is 3, or n is -1, or n is -2, or n is 0, all of these rotations will make this equation true. And all these rotations here, when you put n as -2, or -1, or 0, or 1, or 2, and figure out the rotation, and you put that in, it'll give you a -1/2. And C, we want these in radians, so 120 degrees multiplied by pi over 180. Zeros cancel because you're dividing by 10. 6 into 12 goes 2. 6 into 18 goes 3. So you get a 2 pi over 3. And 240 degrees multiplied by pi over 180. Again, zeros cancel, dividing by 10. 6 into 18 goes 3. 6 into 24 goes 4. So we get a 4 pi over 3. Notice the reference angle is 60, and that's equated to pi divided by 3. 180 divided by 3 is 60. So that means each of these answers in radians down here will have a pi over 3. So pi over 3 is a 60 times 2, 120. Pi over 3 is 180 divided by 3. Pi over 3 is 60. 4 times 60 is 240. So we have all the answers down in a degree. There's all of them in degrees, and there's the two answers expressed in radians. So that's doing the linear equations where you have a power of 1 and you have what we call denominators or fractions that we have to be careful with, because we cannot have a 0 denominator. So watch out for what we call the extraneous roots that make the equation undefined. And if you like my video, click the like button. If you're not a subscriber, click the subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel and visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. And that's the content that I have on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.